There's a question I ask myself about any trip before I book it. How many times am I going to have to pack and unpack? On most of our trips, the answer is 5 or 6. You move, you cover a lot of ground, and of course all that has its own reward. But a LiveAway asks the opposite. You unpack once, or in this case twice, and you stay long enough that the place stops performing for you. The market stops being an attraction, the man at the coffee counter stops asking where you're from. Today I want to take you to an island where that difference matters more than almost anywhere we go, because Bali hands visitors a version of itself very quickly, and the real one takes a little longer. Bali is a word that arrives before you do. Say it out loud, and most people picture the same 2 or 3 things: a beach, a yoga retreat, somebody's photograph of a swing. All of that exists here. I'm not going to pretend otherwise. But here's what that postcard leaves out. Bali is an island about the size of Prince Edward Island, with roughly 4.5 million people on it. And it's Hindu, in a country that is otherwise the largest Muslim nation on Earth. That isn't a historical footnote, it's a thing you walk through every day. Small palm leaf offerings appear on doorsteps and dashboards and shop counters every morning. Chanang Sari, and they're replaced the next morning by hand by the person who lives there every day of the year. There are tens of thousands of temples. The dance you'll watch on our second night is not a performance that happens to be old, it's religious practice that visitors are permitted to sit in on. None of it is staged for us. It was going on before the first tourist arrived, and it'll be going on long after the last one leaves. So the Bali you get in 3 days is real enough. It's just the outer layer. 2 weeks gets you underneath it. We split the 2 weeks between 2 towns with almost nothing in common. The first week we're inland, in Ubud, up in the foothills among rice fields and river gorges, the island's artistic center for the better part of a century. Tourism has changed Ubud, and I won't tell you otherwise. The main roads carry more yoga studios than they used to, but the town still runs on its own terms. When the 2002 bombings emptied Bali of visitors, Ubud's answer wasn't more bars. It was to start a writers' festival. Our base there is Visesa, which is the rare property worth naming. It's laid out as a Balinese family compound, the traditional arrangement, scaled up with villas set into working rice paddies and a spa that follows Bali Usada healing practice. Some people never leave. Then we moved south to Sanur for the second week on the calm, east-facing side of the coast. Sanur was Bali's first beach resort and has been since a Belgian painter settled there in 1932, well before Kuta or Nusa Dua existed. It has aged into something quieter than everything that came after it. 2 towns. You unpack twice, not 14 times. If there's one idea worth carrying into this trip, it's that in Bali the landscape and the religion are the same system. Those rice terraces everyone photographs are an institution. The irrigation network feeding them is called Subak, and it's been running for more than 1,000 years, older than any parliament in Europe. Water isn't allocated by an engineer, it's allocated by priests at water temples in an order the farmers agree among themselves. UNESCO recognizes the whole arrangement as a cultural landscape. I've stood out in those terraces, and what strikes you is that they aren't preserved. They're at work, 850 meters up, following the contour of the hill, with somebody's livelihood in every channel. The same logic runs through the water itself. At Tirta Empul, a spring pushes clear water up through volcanic rock and has been used for purification since the 10th century. I've done the ritual myself. You queue in the cold with everyone else, you work along the spouts in order, and you put your head under each one. Nobody performs it for you, and nobody explains it while you're in there. It's humbling, and I highly recommend it. Even the dance follows the same rule. Every gesture, the hands, the fingers, the eyes, traces a pattern learned in childhood and repeated until it stops being a decision. And the technique doesn't change depending on who's watching. That's the second week, and it changes the tone entirely. But there's something here that only lands once you've done both. The vibe here is quite different. We often lump this part of the world sort of in one category, and yet the differences in the culture, the architecture, go all the way down. 4 hours flying between them, and almost nothing carries over except the latitude. The island does the same thing to you on a smaller scale. The area here around Denpasar, the capital, is just full of narrow streets. with lots of galleries and antique shops and bars and restaurants, and very lively, very almost boisterous, but in a positive way. And 20 minutes after that, here we are on the beach. Hardly anybody here. A paved path runs the length of the bay, past fishing boats drawn up on the sand and warungs facing the tide. It's the kind of walk you find yourself doing twice a day without ever deciding to. And back over there, hidden in the clouds, you've got Mount Agung, the famous volcano, 3,000 meters high, that is the sort of the landmark and the holiest place in Bali. We pass beneath it on the one day we go out to sea. A speedboat reserved for our group alone crosses to Nusa Penida, about an hour out. We anchor at the snorkeling spots, reef mantas in the current at one, soft corals and angelfish at another, and come back along the cliffs in the late evening. Another morning takes us to Tanah Lot, the temple on a rock offshore. I'll be straight with you about that one. 500,000 people a year come through, and the path down runs past a long stretch of stalls before the sea even appears. But the rock has stood there 500 years. The tide decides whether you can walk out to it, and once you're sitting on the stones watching the water work at it, the stalls stop mattering. And then there's the food, which here you learn by doing rather than just by ordering. We start at the Jimbaran fish market, choosing what we'll cook, and then spend the morning with a Sanur chef grinding the spice paste that everything else is built on. There's a day of batik with the family behind Bali's first batik shop, and then there's Denpasar again, this time on foot, eating at stalls that no one puts on an itinerary in a city that carries on with no reference to the resorts at all. Something happens a few nights into a LiveAway. The group starts to feel like a group of friends. It begins with a welcome cocktail. We call them a wheel and anchor mingle, and it all builds up from there. You find out quickly that you're among a small group of Canadians who've traveled enough to know that among the best parts of any trip are often the people you're on it with. By the second week, there are people you sit near at breakfast. There's a table of folks that has found a warungs down some random lane and keeps going back. There are days when half the group is off on the same optional excursion and the other half hasn't even left the pool, and neither side feels like they've missed a thing. We provide the bookends, the welcome, the farewell dinner, and everything worth remembering in between happens because there was time for it too. For anyone who wants to keep going, we have an extension east. A short flight to Flores, then a private boat out to Saraya Kecil, a small island with a reef a few strokes off the sand. No reliable internet, and little to do but swim and watch the light change on the water. From there, we sail into Komodo National Park. There's a 20-minute climb up Padar for the view over 3 bays, and a walk on Komodo itself with the park ranger, where the dragons are wild and the deer they hunt are grazing a few hundred meters away. 4 more nights, and worth thinking about if you've come this far. Here's what I'd say about Bali. It's been visited more than almost any island on Earth, but somehow it hasn't been hollowed out by it. The reason is that the Balinese never stopped doing the same thing we came to look at. It was never for us to begin with. 2 weeks is about what it takes to notice that. One other thought. Our Koh Samui LiveAway runs close to this one, and given how little the two places actually have in common, if you're flying that far away, there's a decent argument for doing both. A small group, 2 towns, and an island in no hurry to explain itself. Everything you need is below. I'd love to have you join us.